All right, welcome back to another episode of the Prospects Live 2021 MLB Draft Show. I am, of course, your host, Ralph Lipschitz. I am here with Joe Doyle, as always, but two very special guests, live and direct, contributors to the site in the scouting department, and will be joining us going forward as we build out the MLB rankings to 500. Of course, I'm talking about Tyler Jennings and newly added Ian Smith as well. They were just down at WWBA over the course, I guess, last weekend, 4 or 5 days. But I'll kick the floor over to you guys. Tyler, Ian, welcome to the show.
Appreciate you guys having us on.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
100%. So I guess we'll dive right in. Joe, I don't know if you have any particular players, topics. I kind of want to keep it open a little bit in the beginning because they saw a lot of obviously really talented 2021 players. They got some good looks on 2022, 23. I think maybe we'll hold off those thoughts until a little later on in the show. But Ian, I'll kick it over to you first. Sort of give me the guys that impressed you the most among the 2021s. They could be high-level names, guys that popped out of nowhere, etc.
I mean, first day we were there, I think Shane Panzini really stood out. First pitcher I think we really saw and sat down and watched. He had his fastball and curveball working well. Working well. He was keeping hitters off balance. I think he was really one of the first guys that stood out for me as well. On the hitter side of things, first day, we really didn't see much. Brady House had a couple hits. That was really one of the things we were looking for was House getting hits against really any pitching this summer. It was a rough summer for him. So those are two guys right off the bat that really stood out for me when we first got there.
How about you, Tyler? What you got?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go on with the Brady House thing. Is after his Area Cup performance where he was kind of just swinging at anything, breaking balls, just trying to poke it out there. He did the best he could with the time that he had down there. The velocity, 64, 73, 74 is what he kind of hit off of at first. But he's still hitting against something that was quality pitches, at least in terms of movement. Then, of course, he hit 108-mile-an-hour exit velocity off of Mason Marriott, which was 92, I do believe. House, in terms of ways that he could really improve his stock before, we go into the offseason, he did a pretty good job there. In terms of other 2021s that did impress me a little bit, Tyler Dean's one. He was with the Dirtbags, Scrap Pack, Virginia kid. Touch 95. He has it's an efficient delivery now. Maybe before it was a little bit ragged. He had some stuff to work out, and I think this time outing in the stadium, he kind of really worked on being more of a pitcher. The effort was not as much as it used to be in the past. He's worked on just keeping the velocity around the same. It was about 91, 93 for the most part, topped out 95. Breaking stuff looked pretty good too. So he did a really good job in terms of improving his stock. He might be someone that could be, top 5 round pick in terms of, next July and everything like that. In terms of another one, Travis Garnett's another one. That was probably one of the more fun outings we saw. Fastball spin rate was up there for 25, 26. He kept it around 89, 90. Then he had a wipeout slider. It was perfect that night. Top 3,000 twice in terms of spin rate. He was locating wherever he wanted. It was a really, really loud outing. Jose Valdez-Acuna is another one. Pitched against the Giants scout team with Elijah Green, Mason Albright, all those guys, and he was able to locate a really, really good curveball, which was up towards a 2,900 spin rate. Which is not something you see often in terms of high school prep arm. So there's the main guys I really enjoyed in terms of the first couple of days that we were down.
How about you, Ian? Was there anyone else that was kind of under the radar going into the weekend that you thought really popped for you and did a lot for their stock?
Travis Smith was another kid I saw, pitcher out of Kentucky. He's a Kentucky commit, big lefty. He top 94. He had high spin rates on the slider as well. He was keeping hitters off balance. I think he had 7 Ks in 4 innings. He was really good this outing. We went to see Drew Gray pitch the same day, another guy I was really high on. Drew Gray still doing the two-way thing. He's probably going to, if he makes it to college, keep up the two-way. I think he's going to be a pitcher long-term. He's going to throw gas. We were going over it yesterday, but he's got really good mechanics on the mound. Again, a lot of people are really banking on the bat, but I think the pitcher side of things is the way he's going to go. And those were two guys we saw when we went out to Fiveplex. I was really, really high on. Pico Cone was another one. He threw a complete game shutout. I think he's a 22, just to mention him a little bit here. He was really good. He was up to 89 this week, and really, the lefties all weekend were special. I know Tyler mentioned Travis Garrett, and I was going over his outing today, and it was really special. He hasn't thrown strikes like he has this week, and when he came out and threw strikes, it was pretty unhittable. And like he said, over two breaking balls, over 3,000 RPMs, which is really took the spotlight that night. Everybody was waiting around the track, man, waiting to see him pitch. So those were guys that the pitchers really stood out this week, and all the Travises, Garnett and Travis Smith, were really guys that really stood out for me.
Yeah, I think Travis did a lot. Travis Garnett especially popped. Ralph, I know that you weren't at the event, but you got your eyes on a lot of different footage. Is there anybody that you thought maybe looked better than they had earlier in the summer, or for you, improved their game?
Yeah, and I don't know if they necessarily, because this guy definitely pushed like all summer long. I know I was talking to, Kyler Peterson, who obviously, follows the events just like, Tyler, the rest of us do, but, certainly is out there the way Tyler has been, and, Ian was this weekend as well. And Thatcher Hurd was the guy that's kind of moved up the most in our rankings. I think I was probably most impressed by. He's a legitimate prep arm. And I think, the conversation of him being a top 10 prep arm, I probably wasn't having 2 weeks ago. Probably should have been. But I think it was just a matter of maybe not having as much exposure. And that's just when there's hundreds of these guys out there, and there's so many players you could see in a given circuit, and what really gets press and what you actually see and don't see, you miss some guys like this. And I think that's what's great about all these different events. You get an opportunity to dig in a little deeper. But the other part that's great about WWBA is the game environments. You're actually seeing these guys, in the actual situations, they're actually executing in game. And I think that's
extended innings.
Yeah. And that's the thing with Hurd, is the numbers were loud, but the performance was good as well. And I know, Ian and Tyler, Brian Sikowski were all sort of updating me, about that start, as it was going on, and some of just how loud it was. So he's a guy that moved up a ton in our rankings because we updated the 250 quite a bit, and he's an arm that I'm just interested to sort of follow throughout the spring, as we wind down here a little bit, but then build up before draft season. I think he's a guy that definitely sort of upped his stock. I think it just, at least in terms of what the exposure was from my eyes. Yeah,
I think Thatcher Hurd, he made his way into kind of that 4th, 5th round territory in this latest big board that we put out. And there's a big up arrow next to his name. Recent UCLA commit. I'll throw another UCLA commit out there that I thought, we've been high on this guy all year, right? You know where I'm going. Gage Jump. Gage Jump, man. So we don't get the opportunity to see him over an extended, period of time, extended innings. But then he goes out at WWBA. The team doesn't even make the finals. He ranks 2nd in the entire event in innings. He throws 8 innings, strikes out 13, had a 5 or 6 inning outing in there, only walked 1, gave up 1 hit. Fastball still 90, 91, 93. And, as Ian and Tyler can attest to, that breaking ball was a struggle in June and July, and it's really starting to take shape, and it's becoming a pretty good little power curveball. I was really excited to see him get that much run, especially against some of that competition. So looking forward to seeing what Gage Jump, brings out of the bag in February and March. Tyler, Ian, do you guys have any thoughts on the UCLA duo there?
I mean, you pretty much just nailed it. Gage Jump, he came in the first game, only pitched about 2 or 3 innings, looked pretty good, top out 92. But the outing you're talking about, the 5-inning outing, 1 or 6 innings that he had against the O-Stingers in the playoff round, the first round, 6, he looked really, really good. You talk about that curveball. It's kind of been a little bit fringy over the past couple of months. It looked like a legitimate offering at this event. Mid-70s pitch has some pretty good spin to it. The fastball still, the velocity was a little bit lower than his first outing, maybe about 88, 91. I know Nat had talked about it in chat before when we brought it up, was just a little bit more, it just wasn't what he usually is, but it was still blowing by hitters, and it looked really, really impressive. And the cutter as well. I had a couple of guys that were helping with TrackMan, and they were wondering what the pitch was. And we're over here still trying to figure out what it is, and I was like, hey, it's a cutter. He's called it a cutter. That's just what it is. And it's still a good offering. He's got 3 solid pitches. I think they're going to come out really, really well. I'll let Ian go ahead and finish up on thoughts here.
Yeah, with Jump, he pretty much got an extended start, 6 innings in his last outing, and like Tyler was saying, he was only in the 89 to 91 range. But since the curveball was working so well, he was being able to blow that pitch by hitters all day long. I think he threw 77% of his pitches were strikes that outing. He was pounding the zone. That seems to be what his MO is going to be going forward. He's got a bunch of movement on the fastball, but he can throw it for a strike whenever he wants. If he can make that curveball into a plus pitch to go along with a cutter, then it might be the most complete pitch thrower in the prep class we have right now. As a strike thrower, like he's more advanced than anybody else. He understands the data. He understands what he wants to do out there. And with Thatcher Hurd, I think he's got a chance to really jump up the rankings as much as Jackson Jobe has over the last 6 months. He's only been pitching for about 6 months. He's another transplant onto the mound, so he hasn't been throwing this long. He's got no wear and tear on his arm. He's got an incredible feel for spin. I mean, 3,300 is ridiculous. So his ability to throw strikes with that breaking ball and to gain velocity and gain confidence on the mound is going to be huge for him. So him going over the next 6 months in the spring is going to be a really fun thing to watch, because he's going to really just blossom on the mound now after these last couple outings and turn into a full-time pitcher.
Yeah. Sorry,
No,
Joe. I was going to jam in a little bit here, and we spent a lot of time on the arms, of course. But we'll go back to the bats a little bit. I know you mentioned House, obviously, but are there any other guys there, could be big names, that sort of solidified themselves as, all right, yeah, this is the guy that I've been seeing throughout the summer or whatever? And then conversely, is there anyone that, maybe hit a little bit earlier and, struggled here at this tournament? Just sort of go over some of the hitters and give me some background on some of these guys and, players that, sort of solidified their place in the rankings, and others that might be falling off a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I'll start off. I mean, Khloe Watson is one guy for sure. Because all summer he's just hit wherever he's gone to. We remember PG All-American. I had spoken to a couple of people after that. We're just watching BP, and they said he had 55 raw power in terms of BP. This past weekend started off a little bit rough. First couple of days, you could tell frustration was kind of building up a little bit. He was striking out. Anything that he hit was kind of weak. But just before the playoffs started, in his last game before everything got decided, really he just turned on a switch. It was pretty impressive to see what he could do. He went out, I want to say it was third at bat, turned on the inside fastball and just cranked it. And with that stadium, too, it's not easy to hit a ball out. I mean, it's 352 to each side to the corners, and it's 412 to center field. And he easily I'm pretty sure he hit the turf that was beyond the right field wall, and that's a solid 400 plus feet that he crushed it. And then, of course, the next day he starts up with another double. So I think personally, in my opinion, he's going to be someone that solidified himself. First time seeing him too, which is weird considering he's like 20 minutes from my house. But I mean, he's definitely one guy that's gone ahead and just solidified himself even further as maybe even the first round talent when it comes to July.
How about you, Ian?
Sorry, I didn't realize you were done there, Ty. But we're not going to talk about terms of results, but Marcelo Meyer was really good over the course of the weekend. He hit the ball loud every time he hit it. He was striking the ball into the gap, just got ran down seemingly every time. He looks the part at the plate. He's got a bunch of weight he can still gain. The power is going to come. I think we were talking about this the other day at the 60 grade or better at his prime. He looks really smooth. He plays some center. He plays some short. He was all over the place this weekend. Another couple of hitters, Josh Baez and Carlos Pena, both from the Ohio Warhawks, were really special. They're both physical specimens. They're both under 17 and a half years old. I realized this weekend that Pena is younger than Baez, which blew me away. but they both torched the ball this weekend. Pena was even louder than Baez. Colton Montgomery, another guy who really lit up the field this weekend. Another guy who looks the part, 6'4", 230, really big, moves really well. Those were guys that really stood out for me. A couple 22 guys we're not going to talk about, but those are really guys really good as well. Xavier Geyser, extremely special weekend. Those were some of the guys that really stood out for me. I was really looking forward to seeing Marcelo, and he really impressed me when I saw him live.
I was going to say, why don't we jump into some of the 2022?
Yeah, not a bad idea.
Talk about some of the underclassmen now, and some of those guys that stood out, because obviously not as heavily promoted. We don't have lists up yet on that. That could be coming shortly soon. But yeah, I mean, I'm interested to learn a little bit about the underclassmen and the classes that are coming up over the next 3 years. And we've gotten even less looks on these guys.
Yeah, I mean, sorry to go ahead and jump in here, but I think the 22 class might be the funnest class we've had in the last couple of years when we really get into it after this class passes. The pitchers are great. The hitters are going to be really special as well. I mentioned Isaac. Everything off his bat was 90+ this weekend. His first couple shots, I think, were 96 and 99. It seemed like he wasn't overmatched in any at bat all weekend long. Another kid who really impressed me, seemed like it was the most advanced approach I saw all weekend, was a 23 kid in Max Clark out of Indiana. He was batting second in this Team Indiana lineup all weekend, and no pitcher could pitch around him. He was either working a walk or driving a ball into the gap. He was a kid who really was really good. On the pitcher side of things, an Orchard Lake St. Mary's kid, Brock Porter, was really special, threw a lot of strikes. Fastball changeup were extremely special at 8 o'clock in the morning. He was breaking the changeup off at, I think, 1,300, 1,400 RPMs, a bunch of break. And the fastball, I think, was up there in the 2,700 range. He's a really interesting follow over the next year. Tristan Smith, South Carolina kid, also special, threw a couple really nice sliders this week, this outing as well. Early in the morning again. The feel for spin for these young kids at 16 years old is ridiculous. I know there's a bunch of 22s and 23s in North Carolina that Tyler wants to talk about, so I'm going to let him jump into those guys.
Yeah, no, you bring up that Canes prospect team with Porter and Tristan Smith, and I mean, that's probably one of the best teams I think that was at the event personally. I had them as a dark horse, and they made it to the Final Four, only to lose to Dennis Collar and a couple other guys, Davis Diaz being one of them. But you bring up Brock Porter, and I mean, like, it's 8 a.m. He's throwing 95, just blowing it past, Luke Kiefner and a couple other guys on the Dallas Tigers team. That's really good. And you bring up the changeup as well. 1,400 RPMs, mid-70s pitch. It looks like you hear the phrase of pulling a string with that kind of pitch. He's pulling a parachute at 8 a.m. in the morning. It's ridiculous. It's just seeing that kind of movement on a pitch. And then, with Tristan Smith as well, really nasty slider. I think that fastball slider combo is going to be one of the deadliest in the 2022 class. Other guys, too, you brought up Xavier Geyser or Xavier Isaac. Every single time he was at the plate, he mashed something. One of the at-bats, 91 opposite field, almost like a yard, and it was just effortless. Patrick Clean's another guy. He led off that Canes prospect team and just mashed as well. He's a very speedy center fielder. He can track down basically anything that was hit his way. When he's on base, he's a threat as well. So he's another guy. He's a Pennsylvania kid for 2022. Cole Young's another one, Pennsylvania kid, I think, as well. Hit a 3-1 bomb at one point. Another kid as well, Malcolm Moore. He's one of the more intriguing names, a really big riser this year. The first time I heard of him was that area code. He was on the underclass and got pulled up to the upper class roster to replace someone, and just was unfazed. I mean, he was mashing curveballs, sliders, anything that was thrown to him. He did the same thing here. I know it was either Saturday or Sunday. He hit 2 bombs in one day, and it wasn't just like, oh, they were cheap shots that just got out. I mean, he had we're talking like 400-foot bombs at this point, and it was just impressive to watch. He's a kid that I think personally could be a top 20 2022 prep player in terms of just watching him just past couple of events. And he is something special you see with a catcher with that kind of frame. It's just a very controllable load that he has to get into his power, and once he gets bat to the ball is just loud, essentially.
Yeah, one last guy before we move on to the 22.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, Joe. Is the velo king of the weekend was a 22, and Dylan Lesko's teammate out of Buford, Riley Stanford, hit 97 day one. No 21 topped that. He was the hardest thrower of the weekend. It was an extremely loud outing. He's a recent Georgia Tech commit. He's a two-way player. He's going to hit. He's going to pitch. He's gonna move up the rankings pretty fast if he can keep up with these loud outings. He's got 2 pitches he can throw, move off the fastball. So that's a guy I just wanted to mention before we moved on from that real quick.
Yeah, for sure. I think and we've talked about this. I think the 2021 prep arms lag a little bit behind what we have, conventionally seen the last few years. And I think, guys like Lesko, guys like Stanford, guys like J.R. Ritchie, and there's a ton of them. We could get more first round arms next year than I think we're going to probably forecast for 2021. I wanted to circle back really quick on the 2021 class specifically and what you guys saw from probably what many would consider the best position group of the class, at least on the prep side, and that's the shortstops. Marcelo Meyer, as you mentioned, Ian, had a big week. Even though the results may not have popped, he was hitting the ball really hard. Khloe Watson showed out very loud again. You mentioned Colton Montgomery. I know Ryan Spikes had a big week as well. Alex Mooney, batted over 300 once again. How does the prep shortstop class shake out for you guys? And out of those guys, kind of who left the biggest impression moving into the spring?
Actually, not even a guy you mentioned there, but it kind of stood out to me that Brady House can be a shortstop long term. Seeing him this weekend, he moves that well. He fields the ball that well. He didn't look. He was charging ground balls. He was charging choppers up the middle. He looked ready to play the position. He played more short than he played third base this weekend. Michael Braswell, another guy you didn't mention, who also had a really good weekend. I think his glove is extremely special. He was getting frustrated that anytime Tamar would come past second base during the game on extremely tough plays, but he covers so much ground that he knew he could take over that whole position. And there were 2 guys that really impressed me. Like you said, Meyer was really good at short. This prep shortstop class was as expected this weekend. Everybody played up to what they stood out to be. Watson could be a first-round pick, like you guys mentioned. I didn't see as much Mooney as I liked to this weekend, but he's always going to perform. The glove's there, and the bat's going to play. But seeing Brady House at short really was the most impressive thing. He's the first guy in my entire life that underwhelmed me so much on film that I was getting so discouraged on the player when he's a top 20 kid all day long. And then I see him in person, and I'm instantly just like, all right, I'm going to stop all this transgressions and really just watch the kid in person. And he was really special.
Yeah, I basically agree with all that. Brady House, like you said, is going to probably stick it short, in my opinion, as well. Just really, really, really look good out in the field. Like we said about the bat so many times, he's starting to turn around the hit tool, I think, and personally. Marcelo is definitely going to be behind. No one, in my opinion, topped Jordan Lawler. We know he wasn't here. He didn't show up, which is to be expected.
Pump faked us last minute.
Yeah, he kind of did. There's a lot of guys that they were on the rosters, they just didn't show up. Lawler's one of them. Joe was a last minute guy that just didn't show up. And there's mainly like Boris clients that didn't show up, if I remember correctly. But yeah, no, Marcelo probably made a better case to get closer to Lawler, in my opinion. Like Ian said, he's just mashing the ball. I just couldn't find green grass anywhere. I know the last time we saw him was against the Canes Prospects team, and he mashed one probably 400 feet, 5 feet short of the wall, and it was caught. And it was in the right center field gap. And I mean, I thought for sure that ball was getting out in any other part of the ballpark. So he's definitely going to be one guy. We've never seen him before in person, just because he's been either here or there or just not showing up. But he thoroughly left a really good impression on me personally. Same, like I said, for Watson. Colson did a very good job. Ian brings up Braswell. Braswell has been very good all summer, personally, in my opinion, and he just solidified even more for me at this tournament. So the prep short class is going to look at really, really good. So it'll be a lot better than what it was last year.
Even one more super underrated name from the prep middle infield class, Jordan Mccants. He led off the East Coast Sox team all weekend. He didn't hit that much, but he showed a bunch of speed on the base pads and played a really good glove up the middle that weekend. So another guy I just wanted to mention, this class in prep shortstop is going to be really good, I think, long term.
Yeah, prep shortstop class has been something that we've discussed, I think, since the genesis of the show, the first episode, when we started jumping into this class. It's certainly one of the highlights, amongst a few other areas. But I'm going to throw a little bit of a curveball at you guys right now. But you saw a unicorn over the weekend as well. You saw a 14-year-old kid that was essentially as good as some of the 2021s, who's also happens to be 6'6", 225 pounds. And he's only been 14 for about 2 months. That's Samuel Cozart out of High Point, North Carolina. What are your thoughts there? That was kind of a guy that popped up, I think, sort of later on in the tournament and buzzed a little bit. That's wild. It's 2025 draft. We're 4 years in the future.
Oh, God. Well, I think at this point Ian had left because he had to go work the next day. But it was, I'm pretty sure, the quarterfinals against Power Baseball, who ended up winning that game. But that kid made me emotionally invested into that game, I swear. Because I know he's hit 89 previously in the summer when he was 13. And he's throwing to his brother as well. His brother, Jacob Cozart, he goes to the same school, which is a K-12 program. I spoke to their mother about that. He just comes out chucking 91. And I'm sitting here, it's like, this kid's 14. He's throwing harder than some of the 2021 kids I've seen this week. And it's not just a fastball. He's got a pretty decent breaker to go with it, too. And, it's kind of sad that TrackMan was down in that field because of storms that we had previously in the week. But I was very interested to see what the numbers were on that. I mean, it was pretty amazing to see. It's kind of like mechanics are kind of like flying limbs a little bit, which is to be expected. He's 14, 6'6". He's probably going to be 6'10" by the time we get to 2025. But he was mainly sitting 88, 90. 91 flashed up a couple times on the radar gun, and the breaker was mid 70s. It was just a very fun outing to watch. And I spoke to his mother as well during the outing. His mother said he's more focused on crafting himself as a pitcher than is actually velo at this point, which is impressive to see from a kid that just turned 14. He's more focused on getting his limbs all together. He's trying to make sure his delivery is, effortless as possible for being as tall as he is. And personally, I think that's a really good mindset to have in terms of, you're still 4 years away from having your chance to be like your brother, where he's a top 100 prep guy, in my opinion. And it's like they're superstitious. Well, baseball players say they're not superstitious. Him and his brother wore their opposite jerseys the entire time on that last day. Because the first game they won, they wore the wrong jerseys. Sam was wearing Jacob's wearing Sam's, and they just stuck with it. And I thought, it was going to work at the end. But it didn't end up working. Sam did kind of get roughed up a little bit. Tried throwing a heater past someone. It came up for a 2-run double that ended up losing in the game. But honestly, we couldn't ask for anything better. It was one of the more wholesome moments that we saw that entire weekend.
Yeah, and it's just wild that he's 14 years old. Probably wrap it up here in a minute, Joe. I had to throw one more name out there. You guys talked a ton about Tamar Johnson, so I'll kick it out to either of you, Ian, Tyler, whoever wants to jump in here. But just what are your thoughts there? It's another 2022, of course.
Yeah, Joe. I tried to be around the field as often as Tamar was up if I was there, and it was really easy to tell how much of a leader he was on the field. He was probably one of the select 22s that was actually made the trip for the East Cobb team, and he controlled that team at all times. He kept everybody under control. He was there, but not talk about that. We're going to talk about him at the plate. His block at the plate is probably as best as anybody in the 21 or 22 class. He gets on top of every ball. He barrels up everything. He was shooting things in each gap. He pulled fouled to oppo and full side. They both would have been 400 plus shots. He's got pretty easy power. His frame is kind of scary. He's listed 5'9", but he's probably 5'7", 5'8". If we're being honest, he's not very much taller than me, and I'm not a big guy. And he's maybe 190 pounds. So if he's going to get any much bigger than that, it's going to be kind of scary. He needs to stay in that not 190 to 200 pound range long term if he wants to stick at the infield. The bat's always going to play. Everything is loud, like I just said. The glove is special. He can play right now. He can play short or second. He's going to end up at second base. It's going to be a bat first, second baseman, but he's really good. We've talked about him being the best bat in the 22 class over Elijah Green, and there can be really can be a case made there. It's really special.
Yeah, Ian nailed it. I have my own nickname for Tamar. Captain Bat Speed is what I like to call him, because the bat speed he can get is ridiculous. I know at area code he had 81 miles an hour for bat speed, which is 10 miles an hour better than any major league player, which is insane to think about. But he's going to be a bat first, second baseman in my opinion. We talked about the body. He's 5'9", this is 5'9". He's a little bit shorter than that. But if he adds any more weight to it, I don't think the body is going to really pan out as much in terms of muscle or anything like that. With the power, it comes easy. I mean, the pull side foul ball that you was talking about, that thing cleared the warehouse buildings next to the field, and that's something that's not hard to get over. And it even took one off, though, that I thought was going to be an opposite field triple. And the kid can run, too. It's not that, you talk about the bat, you talk about the glove. The kid has wheels on him, too. And, he's going to be one of the top 2022 kids, and I'm pretty sure he's going to be a first rounder next year as it is. Even if he reclassifies to 2021, which is a possibility, he could still be a first round, maybe a second round pick.
Yeah, I think he's a first rounder all day, or as we stand right now. The bat is too special, and like you were saying about his speed, he's a lot more athletic than people give him credit for. Again, the body is something to watch, but right now his athleticism is pretty nice. I saw him run out a pass ball to get first base. That was really surprising to see. He's got really quick feet. He moves well. So that's something to keep your eye on going forward. I'm not sure what his 60 is. I know it's not probably plus, but he moves well for what you wouldn't expect.
Hey, as a quick hypothetical, guys, before we kind of wrap this thing up, let's say Tamar Johnson does reclassify into the 21 class. Khloe Watson, he's a smaller guy too. I think he's 5'9", 5'10", maybe 5'11". I could be wrong on that. Kind of in that fringe first round range, but he's got the plus, raw power like you guys were mentioning. How do Tamar Johnson and Khloe Watson kind of line up or compare in terms of, scouting grades come next July?
I say they're pretty similar personally. Tamar's probably got the better bat in my opinion, just because it's got a longer track record. I think Watson's kind of more, it's not newer. It's not raw by any chance of the imagination, but Tamar has a better track record at this point, in my opinion. The glove, I'd probably give it to Watson at this point. We talk about the glove. I know at PG All-American, he had the play to save the run in the first inning on Major Painter, which was incredible in my opinion, because that's a big league instinctive move just to keep that run at bay. In terms of running, it's kind of a toss-up. Personally, that's just me. But in terms of power, I think Tamar's got more power. Khloe Watson's power is a little more raw, in my opinion. But it's still 55 grades to the pull side. I didn't really see much opposite field from him. I'd like to see that a little bit more in the spring, if we do get a season. So Tamar's definitely got more power, in my opinion.
Yeah, you kind of hit all the topics there. I think, like I said, Tamar's going to have the better pure hit tool all day long than Khalil. I think it's a 60 right now or better. Their power is going to be, I think, you could put a 6 on Tamar right now as well. I think Khalil 55. He's going to be a shortstop long term. If we're talking about Watson, there's no way Tamar is going to ever play short long term. So that's one thing. If you're going to value the glove over the bat there, then Watson could have a slighter upper hand. I do think Tamar will be the better player long term. If we're just going to talk about the bat and just as a big league player, I think Tamar is just going to be special at the big league level as a second baseman. But Watson's got a 60 glove. The bat's probably a 5, 55 on raw power. He's a really well-rounded player, but I'm going to lean Tamar a little bit here. But people love the glove, so I think that makes Khalil really could be a late first rounder all day long.
All right, appreciate it, guys. Joe, anything else you wanted to add, or sort of jump in here the last 10% of the show before we wrap this sucker up?
Not really, man. I mean, you guys kick some ass down there. I'm just, I'm glad that we got to see Brady House hit a little bit.
Yeah.
Because that was a big question mark, at least for us, as evaluators. We really wanted to see him square up something hard. Hitting 92 looked good. And then, I mean, pretty much everything that we thought we knew came to fruition, and it was a fun summer. And looking forward to next spring and seeing what these guys bring, especially to the mound 6 or 7 months from now.
Yeah, the mound has a lot of growth.
We're going to keep on rolling out the lists, keep on rolling out the mock draft. In the last couple of weeks, we've put out our first edition of the mock draft. That's been doing pretty well. Go check that out. All you got to do is type in MLB draft, and it's going to come up #1 on the Google machine. Peck ourselves in the back on that one. And then, of course, we built out the 250. We've added Ian and Tyler into our ranking team here. So myself, Joe, and these two gentlemen will be working on building the board out to 500, maybe more. But until next time, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back in another week or two with more 2021 MLB draft content. Thanks.
Peace.